So we are
Is everybody on?
Mhm.
Okay, great. All right. This is the regular meeting of the Larkspur Parks and Recreation Commission on Thursday, October 21st, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. I think we're starting on time. And we're doing this via Zoom. And we'll start with, let's see, what do we do first? I have a roll call.
Mhm.
Allison?
Commissioner Harrison,
Here.
Commissioner Keppel.
He's
I
not
see
turned
he's
on.
here.
He's muted.
Mute, unmute. Yeah, mute.
Mute.
I'm here. Sorry about that.
Good.
Thank you. Commissioner Sunshine,
Here.
Chair Blauvelt.
Here,
I'll note that Vice Chair Friedel is absent.
yes. But we're ready to roll. Okay, Allison, are there any people in the public who want to comment at this point?
We do have members of the public here, so I'll ask if any members of the public would like to provide public comment. They can raise their hand now. And I'll also ask if Community Services Director Escobedo received any emailed comment prior to the meeting.
No, I think we received everything before 4 o'clock, so it was sent out as late mail, but nothing else has been received, so.
Okay, and I see a raised hand from Yvonne Bush. Do you have public comment for general public comment?
She's muted.
But she's the applicant for the tree removal, so she may be,
That you may,
Morning.
yeah. Can you explain to her?
No, yeah, I don't have any comment on the general comment. I have comments on the issue.
Tree hearing, yes,
Mm.
okay, Thank
Okay,
you.
then there is no public comment.
okay. The next item is approval of the consent calendar. Does anybody want to move approval?
I'll move that we approve the minutes.
Okay, great. And is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, and we're all in favor, are we?
Aye.
Aye.
Woo. Wait a minute, I'm having some sort of thing underneath the house. I think it's raccoons making a terrible noise. Excuse me. That scared me, actually. Okay, I'm sorry. So we're all in agreement with the minutes approval, right?
Mhm.
Okay. Oh my goodness. If I turn off, it's because something disastrous is happening, okay? You'll all understand it's raccoons. Okay, sorry. Okay, we're now moving to the public hearing, which is 4.1. It's a protest hearing of the Heritage Tree Permit application at 305 Alexander Avenue. Neil Toft, Planning Director, is going to lead us through this.
okay. Give me just a second. Thank you. Thank you, Chair Blauvelt and members of the Park and Recreation Commission. The matter before you tonight is a protest hearing on a request to remove a redwood tree at 305 Alexander Avenue. The redwood tree is in healthy condition and is approximately 200 inches in circumference. It's a very mature tree. This was submitted on July 21st by Yvonne Bush on behalf of the owner of the property, Fontina Scarcella. They submitted the application to remove this tree, and the applicants at that time did provide an email exchange with the chief of the fire department, Reuben Martin, who expressed support for removing the tree on the basis that it was growing into a driveway easement and might eventually block emergency vehicles. it was kind of reaching that point. He did not determine it to qualify as an emergency removal, but did express support for removal for that purpose. On August 16th, staff posted a notice for the request for heritage tree removal and sent it out by mail. We posted the site. And on August 19th, the city received a letter of protest from James Holmes. We have set the matter before you tonight as directed by the Larkspur Municipal Code. I will note there are 3 items of late mail which you've received, 2 which came in just earlier today. One is from the applicant responding to some of the points raised in the protest letter by Mr. Holmes. Another is from earlier today, our Chief Martin clarifying his direction or recommendations regarding the condition out there, essentially citing that after further review, it would be unlikely that they would use the driveway for that driveway for an easement for emergency access, particularly for emergency access to the homes that actually front on Palm Avenue. There was also a letter supporting the protest and from a neighbor on Palm Avenue, Martha Heidinger. So in conclusion, we recommend that the Park and Rec Commission review the application, take public comment, and hear the applicant, the protesting parties, and all members of the community, and then refer to the municipal code, section 1216.070, subsection F, and make findings for or against removal of the tree, and then direct staff as necessary. So do you have any questions of myself?
Anybody have any questions for Neil? You were so clear, I guess. I think they're shaking their heads, right? Okay. Then I think what we want to do next then, Neil, is move on and first hear from the applicant, or is that right? You're nodding your head.
That's a good start. Start with the applicant and then see if the protesting parties wish to present as well.
Yes, okay. And the applicant is Fatina Scarcella with Yvonne Bush at her side, I think. So do either of you or both of you want to speak?
I want to speak. Well, Fantina wants to speak first.
Okay,
She just wants, oh, go ahead.
No, I know English.
oh,
Yeah, she doesn't speak very good English. So
okay,
she asked me to represent her.
okay,
And I have a letter to Mr. Toft authorizing me to be her spokesperson.
fine. Okay,
Okay.
thank you. Sure, thank you.
So, you know who I am.
Yvonne
And-
Bush.
Yeah, at the time I have a driveway up for parking and for emergency use. I'm very ill and I don't want to impede or have an ambulance go a half a mile from Palm Avenue to assist me. The access in the back is not wide enough. Now, I don't know why Reuben Martin revised his recommendation. It seems very odd that at the last moment, he changed his mind. for no real apparent reason. So anyway, I want to respond also to Mr. Holmes's protest.
Okay,
First of all, he says the tree is, no, wait a minute. Did I have the wrong one? Well, anyway, he said the tree is, oh, shoot. Well, the tree doesn't have a character, doesn't enhance the character of the neighborhood. Is that what he said? I don't have a copy of his note. But anyway, you've also gotten pictures from me showing that there are 2 redwood trees that immediately adjacent to Fantina's house at 311 Alexander Avenue. And then there's a grove of trees immediately to her west of approximately 5 redwood trees. I didn't go on her property, their property, because I didn't want to bother them for this reason. Number 2 is, how do I respond to this comment? You have to get past the tree in order to get to the flat area. He's saying that there's a flat area at the end of the driveway. So he can't get to the flat area unless you go down the driveway. If you can't get down the driveway, you can't use the flat area. The wall that is referred to is residential and structural that belongs to Mrs. Garcia. And Mr. Holmes lives over a mile away and he can't even see the property. The wall was built because the tree was impeding the construction of the wall. So Fantina's son put up this makeshift wooden fence to close off the yard for privacy and safety reasons. And I don't know where he gets, it's not residential. And maybe because Fantina can't speak English, he thinks she's a maid or something, because that's happened many times before. Even I have to apologize because I
take your
didn't say
time,
it
take your
before.
time, Yvonne. Take your time.
I didn't say this before, but when Fantina brought the application fee to your office, she handed it to the receptionist and she said, "Are you the owner?" And she said, "Yes, I'm the owner." And she said, "Are you sure you're the owner? Would she say that to one of you?" I don't think so. Also, getting back to Mr. Holmes, he can have his own opinion on any landscaping of anybody's front yard, but unless he's going to pay for it, it has nothing to do with the tree. He's just making statements about her house, which is very neatly taken care of by a company. They mow the lawn every 2 weeks. They clear the behind the wall in the front yard. Have all of you seen the property?
Yes,
Yeah.
we've all been there, yes.
Okay. And lastly, he says it, and I couldn't find in your in the city of Larkspur's policies that you have to replace the tree. And if you do, I'd like to see that policy. In regard to Martha Heidegger's comment, letter, and Reuben Martin's letter, they were, maybe Reuben can do it, but we had a deadline of, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, oh, he disappeared. A deadline of August 24th to submit protests. And the only one who did was Mr. Holmes. And now she, at the last moment, the day of the meeting, she submits a protest, which I think is unacceptable. If I had done it, it wouldn't have been accepted. And that's all I have to say. Do you have any questions?
Yes, does anybody have any questions of Yvonne Bush? It doesn't look like it.
Can I say something?
Oh,
Oh,
sure. I didn't.
Ethan wants to say something.
You know, it's a beautiful redwood tree. You know, don't get me wrong.
Excuse me, but who are you for the record? We need it.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my name's Eric Bush. I'm the son of Yvonne.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, no problem. It is a beautiful redwood tree. Don't get me wrong. And everybody loves redwood trees. I mean, how can you not? However, that redwood tree is impeding the driveway. If you were to drive a large truck down the driveway, you wouldn't be able to get it by that tree. And
I suppose it's the nearest.
yeah, well, yeah, your mirrors. But that being said, it's only going to get bigger. Trees grow every year. They don't get smaller. And I've lived here. Well, I haven't lived here my whole life, but I've lived in Marin my whole life. And I've been coming down that driveway since I was born. And you can barely get down the driveway now because the root is so gigantic. It actually creates a speed bump in the middle of the driveway, as well as impeding the
Ability.
the side, you know, the width of it as well. But like I said, it's all it's going to do is get bigger from this point. And if you were to have to drive a large vehicle down that driveway, there's no possible way of it ever getting down the driveway. And like I said, I don't want to see that redwood tree cut down, but it sounds like it has to be done at some point. And this is the point that we're at right now, and we're hoping to get it done. So basically, that's all I have to say.
Thank you. And what was your name? You're the son of Yvonne, but what was your name? Please, just for the record is all I'm asking for.
Eric Bush, ERIC BUSH.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, does anybody have any questions of Eric or Yvonne at this point?
I have a question.
Mike?
Madam Chair. If I may, this is a question for either of the Bushes. I was just curious if you had any comments in regard to the email written by the Fire Chief Reuben Martin or the neighbor, in essence saying that the emergency access to the residence is achievable by through the main entrance. Do you have any comments about that at all?
Yeah, that's about a 60-foot walkway from the street. And it would take a much longer time for an emergency vehicle to get to me than the 20 feet that or less that they could use to come through the driveway. Is that all?
But not only that, I mean, if you can get into the front and you can't get into the back, eventually no cars are going to be able to get in through the back. So the tree will have to come down at some point. Right now, my mom drives a Tesla. She's able to get by. What happens if we want to buy a bigger vehicle?
Or your dad's
We
truck?
can't, or my dad's truck. We can't drive down our own driveway. And like I said, it's just going to get bigger.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else have a question of the Bushes? At this point? No. Okay, Neil,
And
what?
I'd like to say
Sorry.
that Reuben Martin agreed with me that it should be taken down until today. I don't know who influenced his decision to change his opinion, but somebody must have gotten to him and
Changed his mind.
changed in because he changed his mind. That's all.
Thank you. Neil, do you have any directions for us here?
No, unfortunately, the fire chief wasn't available to make the meeting tonight.
Yeah.
He did, I think he was trying to be clear that, if the issue is access to the homes that, as I said, the two other residences on 2 Palm Avenue, 10 Palm Avenue, have emergency access available through Palm Avenue, and the driveway easement would not be used by fire department to gain access to the properties. I'm just reading his statement.
Mhm.
So I can't really attest to what he was basing his initial recommendation on versus kind of understanding or getting new clarity on the situation out there.
On Palm Avenue, okay. Thank you. Okay, does anybody have a question of Neil here at this point? Anybody on the commission, I mean. All right, Neil, how would you, I guess we need to also hear from the protest from,
Sure, yes, that and any other parties.
yeah. And
One
anybody,
thing I would clarify is, we did accept, you do have late mail from Miss Bush. The deadline she was talking about was the deadline to protest, by which point then we would go ahead and issue a permit for removal. But if I understand by past practice, the protest hearing is considered a public hearing,
yes,
and any other, it's open for any other comment or input from the community.
up until the time of the hearing itself,
Yeah.
is what you're trying to say, yeah, okay, thank you. All right,
So just differentiating between the protest cutoff date versus, we're now in a public hearing process. And anybody speaking tonight is informing the Park and Rec Commission as well.
Okay, thank you. So I think to now move on, you're suggesting we now move on to the protest. And we have first one is James Holmes. So we should hear from him, shouldn't we, Neil?
Yeah, I think he's calling by phone.
Okay,
James
how's
Holmes.
that work? I
James
just
Holmes.
leave it to Allison to take care of it. Allison?
He's on now, Sandy, so James can talk now, so.
Okay. James?
Yes, this is James Holmes, Larkspur Commissioners. Thank you for hearing this protest. I'd like to offer a couple of items of information, which I just learned recently, and I don't think it's in your material. First, apparently this application is a second bite at the apple. An earlier application to remove it was rejected, I am told, by the board several years ago, and I believe another speaker has personal knowledge of that and may expand on it. The second point
Say that again, I'm sorry. I didn't quite hear what you said there, James, I'm sorry.
Yes, apparently, I've been told that this application is a second bite at the apple.
Yeah.
An earlier application to remove the tree was rejected by your board several years ago, I am told, and I believe that another speaker has personal knowledge of that and will expand on it. But so this is, as I say, a second bite at the apple. Secondly, there's a new Larkspur policy, and stop me if you've heard about it, and I'm repeating something you already know, but it has a bearing on your deliberation because it relates directly to tree preservation. It's the Larkspur Climate Action Plan, which was enacted, I believe, last month by the City Council, and the board should consider it because, as I say, it relates to trees. The preface to the Larkspur Climate Action Plan states, in part, it has a chapter entitled Sequestration and Adaptation, and the preface to that chapter says, quote, in part, "This chapter contains measures to sequester carbon dioxide through planting and preservation of trees and other vegetation," end quote. It then says at the bottom of the preface, the following actions to sequester carbon monoxide and adapt to climate change. The city will take the following actions to sequester carbon monoxide and adapt to climate change. So this is a new policy. Then the chapter, as I say, is entitled to Sequestration and Adaptation. It has 4 separate measures labeled SAC 1 through 4. SAC 1 is entitled Urban Forest, and it has several submeasures. And submeasure C of this council-adopted plan says, quote, continue to regulate and minimize removal of large heritage trees, end quote. It also, the sentence continues to say, quote, and require planting of replacement trees and or fees to support mitigation planting in Larkspur parks and open space areas. So this new policy is something that the commission should consider as context for requests to remove large heritage trees. Turning, though, to the application itself, as noted, there's no issue as to the health of the tree. It's also a large, very visible tree. This is not a case of one tree in a grove with many others in the vicinity so that the removal wouldn't be missed. This is a landmark sentinel tree, precisely the sort that should be preserved if at all possible. Therefore, its removal would negatively impact the neighborhood for purposes of the first set of findings which the board needs to make. Second, with regard to the ordinance's second set of findings, there is no credible claim of hazard. The only claim is that sometime in the future, the tree may grow into the driveway. But the ordinance, as the board knows, does not permit removal based on eventualities and speculation involving the distant future. But more important, the point here is that in the here and now, the tree does not presently block the driveway. First, one of the applicants, 305 Alexander, that house fronts directly on Alexander and has a very wide space before the tree for any ambulance to pull in or any vehicle. So they don't even pass it. Their garage is also in front of the tree, so 305 Alexander doesn't even pass the tree. But for the 2 houses whose vehicles do pass by the tree, there is still available space. I know that for a fact because I glided past it in a large vehicle just this afternoon. But beyond that, if the applicant were to remove the fringe of suckers and weeds at the bottom of the tree, then they would have a full 10-foot clearance, which is the minimum required by Larkspur standards. And I know that's the case because I and another person tape measured it this afternoon. So there really is no substantial blockage currently. As to the issue of emergency vehicles, that's also not an issue. I think you've already heard there's no impediment to access. 305 Alexander has the large street frontage and the wide driveway. And for number 10 Palm, the other applicant, Ms. Bush, emergency access is not down a rear end driveway, which leads to the garage and a gate and a back door. Emergency access would be from Palm Avenue at her front door. And the resident at number 2 Palm next door confirmed to me that based on her discussions with emergency staff, a call to 911 would bring emergency vehicles to the front door at Palm, not the back door down the driveway from Alexander. But even, as I say, even if even if it did go to the back door, there is adequate clearance according to Larkspur standards if they would remove the brush and suckers at the bottom. There's no emergency access issue. Finally, with respect to the fence, it's not a structural or bearing wall involved. It is just a fence. More importantly, though, the applicant at 305 Alexander has already removed the stucco portion next to the tree and has replaced it with an intact, fully intact piece of wood, and well fitted and painted. Additionally, if the applicant at 305 Alexander were to trim away the brush and suckers from the base of the trunk, she would have more clearance between the trunk and the wall. Finally, there are many ways to refashion wooden fences. Again, the stucco part is gone. Wooden fences around redwoods and a trip up Madrone Canyon would provide a number of ideas for doing that. So the fence is not an issue, and I would say as a matter of policy, big trees should take precedence over fences anyhow, if it's possible at all to work around them, which it is here. Hence, there is no reason to remove this majestic, heritage, carbon-absorbing, neighborhood beautifying tree at this time any more than there was the last time that the applicants tried. Thank you very much, and I would be happy to take questions.
Does anybody have a question for James? I don't see anybody nodding. I guess not, James. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Neil? Excuse me. Neil, do you think we should hear the protest that came in just tonight from the person at Tupum?
Well, you might ask if there's anybody else that wishes to speak on the matter,
Okay,
because there is another,
protest.
there are other people in the audience, yeah.
Yeah, okay, of course. All right, is there anybody else who wants to speak in protest?
Yes, we'll now hear from Fred Grange. Fred, you may unmute yourself.
Welcome, Fred. Please proceed, Fred Grange.
I'll call you back.
Okay. All right, you'll call us back.
Wait, is there somebody on the line?
Yes, can you hear me? I'm on the computer.
Can you hear her?
Yes, can you give your name?
Yes. Okay, we're good then?
Yes.
My name is Martha Heidinger, and I live at 2 Palm Avenue. And my driveway access is 305 Alexander, as you're well aware of. And I pass that heritage tree every day. And I'm thankful that the tree resides where it does, because it is a welcoming beacon when I come home every night. And it lends character to my property. Even my friends tell me, they say, oh, I love that tree out there. So it does have some character that is important to me. My neighbors at 10 Palm and 305 Alexander don't seem to share my view. They want this tree removed. Their application for removal and the staff report refers to the ambulance and emergency vehicles that cannot pass through the driveway, they say. But when I take my walks, I saw the fire hydrant at 1 Baltimore Avenue. It crosses right where Palm is, and it is 1 house away. Well, 10 Palm Avenue is 1 house away from that fire hydrant. And I am obviously 2 houses away from the fire hydrant. And it serves all the people there on Palm Avenue and I guess on Baltimore and so forth. But so there is no reason to have any emergency vehicle come down the driveway. I have had to call for an emergency at times and in the past, the very distant past, thank goodness. But when I did, they respond to my front door, coming up the path from Palm Avenue. That's the way it works. If you dial 911, they go to your address. My address is 2 Palm and the Bushes is 10 Palm. And they would go up to her address via Palm Avenue. They would never go to 305 Alexander, I don't believe. So then the other thing that they're concerned about is there's not enough room. And as Mr. Holmes said, there isn't a concern right now. My daughter's van, that's Cadillac big van, can get through just fine. I can get through just fine. I resurfaced the driveway several years ago, well, about 6 years ago, maybe longer, I don't know, but it was cracking and it was terrible. It was like the part that you see now that's in front of the tree going above the tree to 305 Alexander. That's what it looked like. And you'll see at right in front of the tree, going down a little bit, that it is smooth and nice and nicely surfaced by a professional driveway person that resurfaced it. And I wanted to surface it all the way up to 305 Alexander, the sidewalk there. And when I asked the others if they wanted to participate in this, and they both said no. And so there were roots there, there were buckling the driveway just as there are now. And but the driveway person that was fixing it said, I can take care of that. I will fix that for you. And he said, no problem. So he started on it, and apparently he was stopped, he said, by the neighbors. I guess Fantina did not want it corrected. And so for some reason, I don't know. But anyway, he said he would never come back again. So that was too bad, because it would have been much better for everyone if that was fixed. And so it's buckled some. I've tried to smooth it over. I've gone to Home Depot and bought some asphalt. And I've taken it and emptied the asphalt. It's very heavy, but I did it. It was a kind of a summer challenge, and tamped it down and got some heavy person to tamp it down a little more. And I'm trying to make it better. And it's true, as Mr. Holmes said, that the root ball has grown, and my son came by one day and he chopped some of it off with me. And but he was taking me out for Mother's Day, so he abandoned the job. But anyway, more space could be gained by trimming that back to the tree so that you don't have that ball sticking out with all the little shoots and so forth. And that would also help Fantina with her fence there. And years ago when this happened before, where we went to the city, I don't know who was on the commission at the time. I forget now because it was a number of years ago, but he said, well, he had a redwood tree that he made room for to protect it. And what he did is he cut out a big hole in his deck so it could grow up and just keep growing, and he'd enjoy it, and he'd make it bigger if he had to. There is room that Fantina could make if she wanted the stucco wall. It could be made bigger by putting it around the tree back further. And she has a wood one now that's there, and as Yvonne said, and she has not, I guess she's been waiting to do something with it. So anyway, I think there's room for all of us to find solutions that would make each one of us happy. I, of course, I would like to see the tree stay, and I've made that clear. I would like to help in any way to make it better for anyone. And I feel comfortable because I know that our emergency services aren't dependent upon the driveway, and that there is room right now for my car to get through. I have never had anything happen to it. It doesn't get scratches or anything from the tree. And it makes it unique. In fact, the thing that I think about is, I love the trees so much. And I've lived here just about all my life. And like from 5 years on, and been surrounded by redwood trees and loved them. And then I had to live one time without them in Lodi, and there's quite a difference. And I would like to see us save every tree that we can that is a heritage tree. And if you think there are too many, go down to Madrone Avenue and take a look at the redwoods. We have, I don't know, what's a good number, what's a bad number? I think they're all good. And so I respectfully request that the commissioners deny the removal of the heritage tree. And I thank you for listening.
If I could, I'd like to add just a couple of things, because I think I can clarify maybe a couple of points.
Excuse me, may I ask who's speaking, please?
My name's Fred Grange. I moved into that house at 2 Palm Avenue in 1970 and then sold it to Martha about 20 years ago. So I was there for about 30 years. And as you know, as you may know, I have a debris box company that I've had for 60 years. And our debris box trucks are every bit as big as the fire trucks. And I drove my debris box truck down that driveway all the time. And the reason that I can do that is because a debris box truck and a fire truck are both 8 feet wide. And the area between the fence and the tree is 10 feet wide. So just, there's room. Second thing is there's a root ball at the bottom, as somebody has pointed out, there's a root ball at the bottom that encroaches on that 10 feet by maybe a foot, not quite. And I don't think Martha would have any objection to if they wanted to trim that root ball back to give more visual, visually opening it up. So that might be some compromise. I mean, I don't know if it's a compromise, but I think we could even help, in fact. As to the reason that I'm only guessing, but as to the reason as to why I think that the fire chief may have changed his mind is because I was involved in the volunteer fire department when I was younger. And we used to just, when there was a fire, we'd go to the fire and we'd drive up to it and try to access it however we could. But those were the days before computers. Now, everything's computerized. When somebody calls for an emergency, such as 2-palm or 7-palm, 10-palm, if as 2-palm or 10-palm, the computer tells the fire truck where to go. And the fire truck would be told to go to those addresses on Palm, not Alexander. If somebody called from 305 Alexander, the computer would tell the fire department to go to 305 Alexander, knowing that there are 2 driveway accesses. They have a driveway on the right side and a driveway on the left side, either one of which would serve them. But of course, they wouldn't drive on either of those driveways because there's a fire plug right near there. They would just unload their hoses in the street and put the fire out. So there's really no reason to get a fire truck down that driveway. But if they wanted to anyway, I can tell you, having a fleet of trucks, that is possible, very possible. And as far as why the fire chief changed his mind, I suppose it's because he looked into where they would be dispatched. So thank you.
Thank you. So, thank you very much, Fred. Anybody have a question of Fred?
I'm sorry, one last thing. I was at the hearing a few years ago when this same hearing, the same issue brought before the same commission. And at that time, they turned it down, as I hope you will also. Thank you.
Thank you. Fred, does anybody have a question for Fred? Yes,
I have a question actually for Martha,
for Martha? Okay.
if she's still here.
Yes,
Martha? Yeah.
I'm here.
Who owns the driveway?
It's, it was, I guess, Fantina's husband, and she bought the property as, which included the driveway subject to an easement for ingress and egress for both 2-palm and 10-palm. It's on my deed.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Do you have something, anybody? No? Okay. I guess now we get, Neil, where are we? We've listened to both people who were,
Well, there was a lot of, I would just suggest there was a lot of testimony by the parties, the protest and the other party, and you may want to give the applicants an opportunity to
Yeah.
respond to any of the comments made before taking up your final decision.
okay, that's a good idea, all right. That's Yvonne, actually, probably speaking on behalf of the owner. I've lost her name here, but, oh, Scarcella, spelled, pronounced differently, I'm sorry.
Chris.
Well, Yvonne, do you have anything more to add here?
The only thing I have to add is, how many times do we have to come to your commission to get it cut down? Does it have to be 7 feet wide, 6 feet wide. It's an easement that we legally have the ability to use. And if we can't use it, then who's responsible for that? Is the city responsible? Is Martha responsible? But my husband has to put his side mirrors in to get down that driveway. And he doesn't want to do that anymore. And if we, they're sort of impeding our ability to buy a car. If he wants a Jeep or, a big car, he can't do that unless he parks it on the front. But our driveway is to the garage, and we want to have a flexibility to do that. And it sounds like there's always an excuse to why we don't want it cut down if we don't have to. Like my son said, it's a beautiful tree. It's just that it's in the way of human's ability to function.
Okay, thank you, Yvonne. Anybody have any further questions of Yvonne? No. Okay. Okay, Neil, do you think it's time for us to deliberate, or do you have any other thoughts here?
No, I would just encourage the commission to, just consider that any removal of the tree should be approving removal of the tree should be based upon the findings. Both of the findings, it will not adversely affect topography, land, or cause significant erosion or increase surface runoff. After removal of the tree, after consideration was given, number of existing trees in the neighborhood will not adversely affect general health, safety, welfare, or be detrimental to persons or property in the vicinity. And then one of two findings, it either poses a hazard with respect to disease, danger of falling, proximity of existing or proposed structures, or interference with utility services, or the removal of the tree is necessary to prevent unreasonable interference with the property owner's investment-backed expectations. So it has to meet one of those two findings as well.
Yes, thank you. I was gonna sum up those two, so great. All right, I think it's now time for you to deliberate. Okay, Vicki.
One more question. I don't know if it's really relevant to our deliberation, but could either Franklin or Neil shed any light on the recent action on the part of the council regarding this tree replacement ordinance? Is that something that really applies to the city and not individual homeowners, but it's...
Well, I think, I'll respond to that regarding the climate action plan. The climate action plan is a broad set of policies, goals and policies to address the climate crisis, more tailored towards a whole variety of measures, whether at the city level or community-wide. The policy, and I think James said it well, to consider it within the context of that. The policy would be to consider adopting more specific regulations or measures to basically, I think it reinforces the current tree ordinance in terms of, minimizing removal of trees. So I think it simply is kind of reinforcing what's already a standard under the ordinance. But in terms of replacement trees, the city has not adopted specific guidelines or standards for replacement. Often with projects involving planning commission review, there may be conditions. These are more related to the fact that it's a discretionary decision with a lot of components involved. And sometimes applicants typically will suggest or provide for mitigation plantings if they're removing heritage trees, or there may be a condition applied to mitigate through replanting of trees. And there is some thought towards mitigating through a fund, but those require some very sort of a detailed analysis to really identify what's an appropriate basis for charging a fee, appropriate nexus for that charging the fee and that fee amount. So depends on what your tree planting program is and what those costs are. We've explored that to some degree, but it's a bit of a challenging exercise. I think one that will be more, the climate action plan will be more encouraging for the city to move forward with I think approaching that, but we do not have standards currently set up.
Okay.
We don't take that into consideration now, you're saying? Yes. Yeah. Okay, thank you. How about you, Vicky? You look like you have another question.
No, that was it. I really appreciate that clarification for us.
Okay, thank you. How about anybody else? Have any further questions before we deliberate?
I
No?
guess I have a question and I was, of course, Googling it on while we were talking about what the kind of the width growth trajectory would be for this tree moving forward. And was wondering, can we take that into account as part of our deliberations, that redwood trees obviously grow very quickly. If the immediate needs are not part of this conversation, but like in 2 or 5 or 10 years, this tree will have expanded a certain amount. Can we take that into account in terms of how we decide today? And I don't know who that question goes to, but
Yeah.
I would love to, yeah.
I think Neil could maybe best answer that.
Well, I'm not sure the question. I think the redwood trees grow up quickly. They grow out a little more slowly. I think my experience with the Planning Commission, they have had some analysis of tree growth, and we haven't done that here, so I don't really have anything concrete to work from. But sometimes it's a matter of, as you say, 5-10 years or so, depending on, because we've had situations of trees coming close to contacting buildings.
Mhm.
So that has been a discussion point at what threshold do you begin to say, because you don't really want to wait until it's already contacting. You don't want to already wait until it's already blocking the driveway or the access, but it's not there yet. So that's again kind of a judgment call. I would say it's been something the commission has considered on a case-by-case basis, and generally kind of looks out like, hey, if we can enjoy 5 or 10 more years with this tree, then let's try and do that. And maybe at some point someone will remodel and work around it at that time. But on the other hand, as I said, you also have to consider, what is that threshold? If your interest is really, it is a driveway, it's a driveway easement. So, it's a bit of a challenge there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions before we deliberate? Guess not. Okay, folks, off you go. Who wants to start with their comments? And we can just have an exchange back and forth, I think, until you feel comfortable somebody making a motion, okay? Who's going to start? As chair, I don't get to start, so maybe one of you. Just a free discussion, I think, is all you need right now before you come to a conclusion.
Okay, I'll begin. With all of these different heritage tree removals, they're always tricky. There's always interesting facts presented. But at the end of the game, and end of the day, we always have to go back to the Larkspur Municipal Code. And I think we're all pretty familiar with, section 12.16.070. We have to make and this is all, I'm sort of paraphrasing what Neil alluded to, but when I start looking at that code, I'm struck by how limited our, I don't know if authority is the right word to use here. To me, this is a different case where it really comes down to emergency services, which doesn't really fall into this section of the municipal code so easily. I think it's unfortunate that this tree is impeding and puts into question whether the neighbors, could have emergency services provided to them. We have the chief of the fire department telling us that indeed the services will be provided to the front of the house on Palm Avenue rather than the rear of the house. We have a question as to whether there's enough space. Of course, and we also have the ability to see if there are alternate measures that can be taken to perhaps, deal with the tree itself and shave off some of the root ball as was suggested. But I'm having a hard time trying to find the findings that are required for us to make the to make the approval or the recommendation to the city council to remove this tree.
If I may.
Yes, I did. I was wondering where
yeah,
you're putting this. Okay.
I think I match, Mike's feelings on this, as well as these are never easy decisions to make, and we do have to rely on the criteria that Neil so nicely presented to us. And when I look at it, the first two findings, it seems to meet the criteria to allow for the tree to be removed. But then the issue comes in when you go to 2, where we look at the tree at this point doesn't pose a hazard with respect to disease or danger of falling, or the existing structures. So then it comes down to the removal of the tree is necessary to prevent unreasonable interference with the property owner's investment-backed expectations. And that, for me, is kind of more vague language. But what I've heard from listening to the applicant, what I'm hearing is this rests on their concern regarding emergency access. And it seems that everybody has their opinion, but the opinion that probably for me carries the weight is the one from the fire chief, who says we can provide emergency services to the residences. So that's where I'm struggling at this point on this one, because of course I try to respect homeowners and what they want to do with their property. But this is a very large redwood tree and it is protected by city ordinance, and we have a responsibility to base our decisions on that ordinance.
Any other thoughts?
So I'm thinking about the growth of this tree in the future and kicking this issue down the line. And I think this, if we deny this now, it'll be back in 5 years or 10 years. And at what point, I would like to provide the homeowners some kind of certainty on how, at what point will this tree kind of impede their access to their own property and their ability to use their property the way they would like to. And so that's where I'm sort of struggling that right now, yes, you can get a car down there, depending, as long as it's a smaller car, but in 10 years, can you do that? And is that okay for us to say, come back to us in 5 years, 10 years down the line? And so going back to Vicky, as you mentioned, and Mike, going back to the actual ordinance, how much leeway do we have? Because at some point, if we're all on the commission in 10 years and they come back and they can't get a car down that driveway, I think we're going to be voting differently.
Mhm.
So that's where I'm sort of struggling. Like, it feels inevitable. And do we make the decision now, or do we make the decision down the line?
It's all very reasonable.
Mhm.
No.
Okay, well, does somebody want to make a motion, or do you have enough discussion among yourselves? I don't know, nobody seems to want to make a motion either.
This is a hard one. I mean,
It
it's a
is.
perfectly
is.
healthy tree.
Yeah, yeah.
This is really, 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 really tough.
Mhm, mhm. But,
I just don't think that we have the authority to play
Yeah.
the what if game. We have to look at the municipal code itself, and base our decision, the facts at hand today, not what could possibly happen in the future. I mean, I don't want to kick this down the road for someone else to have to deal with later on either, but we're not certain, what the future holds. And I think that I'm hoping that, all the residents who utilize that driveway can look at other possible solutions, looking at first, possibly widening things a little bit, getting clarification and feeling better about the emergency services being provided to them via the front of the house rather than the rear. And so I feel comfortable making a motion to deny the applicant's request to remove this heritage tree.
Okay, is there a second? Anybody have a second to that?
I'll second it.
Okay, all right. Any more discussion? No, then let's take a vote. And do you want to do this by roll call?
Yes, please.
Yeah, okay.
Commissioner Harrison,
Okay, I'm voting in support of the motion. Aye.
Commissioner Keppel,
Aye.
Commissioner Sunshine,
Aye.
Chair Blauvelt,
Aye.
and the motion passes.
Okay, thank you, everybody. And thank you to the public. I think this is difficult and you all really tried to figure this out the best you could. And but we are kicking it down the way. Okay, thank you very much, everybody.
Okay.
Now
Thank
we'll,
thank you, commissioners. I'm gonna sign off now. Have a good
okay,
evening. Take
thank
care.
you. Thanks a
Aye.
lot for all your help, Neil. Appreciate it. All right, we'll move on then. Where's my agenda going? Okay. Where is my agenda? Oh, this is agenda. Okay. Sorry to be sort of odd here.
So the next one would be new business, and it's a report from Rita on updates on our park projects.
That's the next part? Okay.
Mhm.
Thank you. I don't know how I'm missing that, but okay, thank you very much. Rita, move on. Thank you.
Evening. Thank you for your work. This is hard. This is a hard meeting. Oh my goodness.
Yes, but they're very smart people on this board, on this commission.
Anyway,
dedicated, believe me.
an update on the various park projects that are going on. First one is Piper Park, the shade sail portion of that picnic area improvement is moving along. They have a
Excuse
lot.
me, can you speak a little louder? Rita, I'm probably getting a little deaf, but could you speak a little louder?
Sure, I'll do my best.
Okay, thank you.
So anyway, the shade sails, the posts, anyway, it's being fabricated. There were a lot of delays, material delays, all that COVID stuff affected those posts. But anyway, I did get word just last week that the fabrication has started. It'll probably be another couple more weeks, and then they will give me notification once the posts have shipped, and then we'll get the installation scheduled. So look forward to that, so that we'll have lots more shade next summer. Update on Dolliver Park, that's the one with the family that is donating money for that. Meeting with an architect on Monday to review the fence layout and just help have a little bit of just additional help with the design. And then once she gets some drawings to me, then we'll go ahead and go get into an agreement with the owner, to fund the construction. And then, the first phase will be for the architect to do drawings, and then, get bids, blah, blah, blah. That's moving along. Third project, Hamilton Park. Bad news, good news. So bad news is that the donor has had a change of mind and has decided to withdraw from that project. The good news is that they would like to actually help fund the playground improvements at Niven. So they asked me to read this statement regarding this pivot that they're doing. So this is from Dana and Eric Klonbeck, the family, the potential donating family. So they say, over the course of the past few months, we have had the pleasure of exploring a park revitalization program in the memory of our young son, Alex, who was tragically killed almost 2 years ago. We deeply appreciate the partnership of the city of Larkspur, and specifically the Public Works Department, as we find an open space that pays tribute to both Alex and our community here in Marin. An avid explorer and an aspiring surfer, Alex was most happy by the water. We would often find him scooting along the path behind Bon Air Shopping Center, searching for treasure. As we reflect on Alex's short time with us, we believe that the Niven playground and its proximity to where we spent time as a family is more congruent with Alex's curious and wandering spirit. We are grateful to the PRC Commission and the Public Works Department for allowing us to contribute in such a meaningful way, and look forward to bringing our vision to life. That is the statement from the parents of
Thank you.
young Alex. But as I said, they are actually now pivoting towards Niven. And so I have lots of updates on Niven. So finished the preliminary design concept with the landscape architect. And the area of focus where the improvements are going to happen are first the picnic table area, which is right across from the fire station on Drake's View Road. The park entrance area, which has the sign, so that there'll be a new sign there, and then the landscaping will be redone with California native plants and drought tolerant landscaping. There'll be small upgrades all throughout the parks, basically just minor upgrades or repairs. The benches will be, get new slats, and new frame, the same design, but replacement frames as needed. But definitely the slats need to be replaced. The lighting, the bollards, they're just all, looks like a haunted house graveyard, they're just all over the place. So those will get replaced. And then the big light poles on the bases, they're all corroded, so those will get replaced. And then we'll also be getting 2 new drinking fountains, including the ones with the pet bowl down below that fill with water. I was just there today, and there's just like all these random bowls that citizens have brought in for their pets. So we'll put in a fountain that has that integrated in the design. And lastly, the playground. So the playground will be, with the Quambec's help, we should be able to do, at one point, originally I was thinking we could do it in 2 phases. So with the Quambec's underwriting part of this project, I think we'll be able to do it all in 1 phase, but it will include a new play structure to replace that old one that's there. And then also a family picnic area, just a couple tables, including one that's kid-sized. The perimeter fence that goes all the way around, that'll protect the playground from dogs running through. And then lastly, a small expansion that will include sand play, in kind of a sand play, nature play elements to it. And then just some additional landscaping around the playground. Again, with more the California natives and drought tolerant, and then pollinator attracting plants. So it'll sort of soften that edge of that playground. So those are the 4 areas that are being planned, working with the landscape architect now to develop these plans. And I did send a project update invitation to all the residents of Cape Marin and Circle for them to link to a project update. It's basically a survey, but it has a lot of project information. And then there's just a few questions I'm asking about sort of their feedback on the look and feel of play structure, the look and feel of whether or not they want to do more of a nature play thing or a sand play thing. So it's a little bit more, I'm just trying to get a little bit additional feedback. So those were sent out via postcards as well as emails, invitations for people who I had email addresses for. I don't have emails for everybody in that area, but I did have emails for people that attended the community meeting last year. So after much delay, we are back on track, and hopefully we can, it should start going down the fast track now. So
Great.
thank you. Any questions?
Thank you. Anybody have any questions? Good work.
Just thank you.
Yeah.
It's a lot of balls to be juggling right now.
Yeah,
It
it
is.
is.
It's all good. It's all good stuff.
Well done, Rita.
Yeah.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, proud of you. You always do a good, thorough job. Great. That's great. Okay. Does anybody have anything more for Rita while she's here? Grill her on all sorts of things. No. Guess not. Thank you, though. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Rita.
Yeah.
My raccoons are starting to act up again, so if I jump, you'll know why. Oh, wasn't that embarrassing? Oh my goodness.
Sandy, we'll head over there to ward them off.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you so much then, Rita. And now I guess we have Franklin, your oral report.
Yeah, so there hasn't been much going on. the parks, Piper Parks Field will be closed on November 1st. They were closed today due to the rain, so we've just been juggling around trying to find space for a couple of our renters who are still out using the fields. Me and Nick started hopefully planning for Easter, for the Easter egg hunt. So we're starting that process, and we're hoping that little kids by the time, well, the 5 and up hopefully will be all vaccinated, but there's hope that the little ones will be vaccinated by spring. So we're, it's our turn for the Easter egg hunt. It was our turn the year that COVID started. So it bounces back and forth between Corte Madera and us. So we're going to do it again in this spring. That's really, we haven't had a lot of other stuff going on. I think Rita has more things happening in the parks than we do. But I will be on vacation next month, so we won't have a meeting. So our next commission meeting will be in December. So, but that's all I have to report. So.
Okay, anybody have any questions for our director? No, they just feel you let us know everything. Okay, how about commissioners' reports? No, and nobody has something there either. Well, then, we're just right ready to adjourn the meeting, and Allison, do we have to do that in a special way, or can we roll call or anything? Can we just,
You may just adjourn when you are ready.
okay, anybody have that motion then to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Okay, in the second?
I'll second.
Okay, great. And then I imagine we're all for it, right? Okay, thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks,
Bye,
everybody.
everybody.
Thanks, Franklin. Thanks, Rita.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
everybody.
Thanks, Allison.